A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Broadcasting from the Ottoman Empire with 50,000 gigawatts of power, this is the Freedom Otter Show.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. It is the Freedom Otter Show. I am your host, that water sausage with the weird name. I'm back, bitches. What's new? What's shaking? What's happening? Hopefully your Memorial Day weekend will be very happening. Let's keep in mind what it's for, though. Remembering those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to our country. We should be very thankful to their families. But hey, we got a lot of stuff we got to talk about. It's been a while. We're gonna get you caught up. I'm just putting this together like the last second and all that. Crazy, don't you know? How's everybody doing? I can't even keep the music working right. How's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for coming on to the show. It's this, like I said, this was like a last minute thing. I was not expecting to do this show. I don't even have my water. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to drink. I don't, So this is going to be just a gigantic mess. This show. All right. It's been a while. First things first, though, I should probably get you up to speed on what's been going on with me. Obviously, I put the show on hiatus for a while, just because I was getting a little burnt out. I was doing the show, 3 days a week for a couple hours, and it was fine. It was good. It was good. But it just got to the point where between, getting everything together and what I want to do for the show and the quality of the show that I want to put out, it made it tough. It really did make it tough. So I decided to go on hiatus. And then I ended up finding out, because of some health problems, I was diagnosed with cancer. A type of pancreatic cancer called neuroendocrine carcinoma. I've talked about this in earlier shows. Ended up having to go in for surgery for that. I got a nice scar on my belly here where they took, they took 2/3 of my pancreas, my spleen, my gallbladder, and then they also found a mass on my one kidney. They took that mass out. I still have my kidney, thank God, but I've only got like 1/3 of my pancreas. I'm on medications. I got to watch what I eat, all that kind of jazz. So, and I had to, and I was recovering. It took me a while. I'm just now getting around to feeling like myself again, but I still have problems with digestion, and I won't go into it because it gets messy. The white, you'll probably hear my guts growling and making noise during the show, which, what are you going to do? But yeah, that's basically what's going on. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Everybody can see me. I'm not in the usual studio. I'm in my I'm in my game. The gaming. I'm on the gaming rig. I'm doing everything from there. So I'm kind of rebuilding things from the ground up for this part of my streaming, and I wanted to make sure I got that in. So, but yeah, we are here. We are up. We are running right now. It's going to be a hot mess, but hey, we're going to do it, and let's get started. The big news, that everybody's been talking about are the two Israeli embassy staffers, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky, who were murdered the other night by pretty much a piece of human filth that, when taken into custody, yelled "Free Palestine," and I mean, and there you go. That pretty much says it all. And then you've got all the crazy kooks coming out of the woodwork that are screaming about Free Palestine and everything else, and the anti-Semitism, and it's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And there's just a lot of drama going on in regards to, like, Hassan Piker over on Twitch. He's getting blasted. Some people are saying, because he was what do you call it? Basically he was the stuff he was saying pretty much radicalized people. That's what he was saying. So that's where, I forgot to put something in there. So that's where we're kind of at. Okay. But a lot of people have been yelling about this on social media, but there is a very vocal group of people who've been oddly silent about this, about all of this. And that's like the gun grabbies and the commie mommies, the anti-2A groups like Bloomberg, the moms demand more wine, Giffords, all of those, oddly silent about this particular incident. Normally, when there's something like this going on, mass shooting or some kind of shooting that makes headlines, they're they can't shut their mouths up. But right now, they really haven't said anything. Nobody's saying anything. It's been oddly quiet. And you got to wonder why. I mean, I think we can piece that one together, right? We should be able to piece that one together. But they've been very, very quiet. Nobody has said anything like that, about this in the, from the gun grabby side. So I have to wonder. It's gotta be the whole, it's gotta be because it has to do with the anti-Semitism that's been kind of rolling through the country lately. We've seen it, Columbia, Harvard, Portland, Seattle, all of these liberal and Democrat strongholds. We've been seeing the anti-Semitism coming out. Okay. And I'm guessing the anti-2A people, they don't want anything to do with it. And I don't blame them because of the blast back that they would get. Because number one, it doesn't even fit their narrative. It doesn't even come close to their narrative. The guy was from Illinois, which is, Cook County, Illinois, Chicago. And we know how Chicago is when it comes to guns. They don't like them. You got to jump through hoops. You got to give your DNA. You got to give them a PETA. I mean, you name it. They want it. Okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but yeah. From what I have read, and this could be wrong, I'm there's still information coming out. But what I've heard right now, which I can't say for sure is confirmed, but he did acquire his handgun, the one used, legally. Okay? He did use it legally. Or I should say he got it legally. He got it legally. He checked it at the airport with the airline. He checked his gun the way you're supposed to by federal law and flew to D.C. with his gun. He had his FOID card and all that kind of stuff. Don't know if he had a concealed carry license in Illinois. That's another set of hoops that you have to jump through. But when you get to D.C., then there's a whole nother thing because they don't recognize reciprocity for gun licenses. You could do it, but there's hoops that you got to run through, and you got to also register your gun in D.C. But technically, he was not allowed to be carrying that gun in D.C. So the question is, and you know what the question is, what law would have stopped this? What of all the gun laws that are on the books in Illinois, as well as in Washington, D.C., which one of those gun laws would have stopped this? If your answer is none, you've won a Marvel No Prize. Congratulations. That's exactly right. Not a single gun law on the books would have stopped this. Murder is already illegal, obviously, but no gun law would have stopped this at all. Nothing. So that's why I think a lot of the gun grabbies and the commie mommies, there's a twofold element to this. The fact that there's an anti-Semitism angle to this incident, as well as the fact that they know not only the blowback from that, but all of the pro-2A people like me and Costas and Mark Smith and all the other accounts on X, Rob with the 2A and the news and everything. There was no way they would win the court of public opinion on this one, not even with their own people, because they would be tainted by the anti-Semitism. And then you look at right now, at least here in New York. So Firearms Policy Coalition has been posting recently. By the way, you should go support them. Donate money to them. They kick ass. But they've announced that they have oral arguments coming up next month here in New York. The Christian v. James case, which has to deal with, believe it or not being able to carry in sensitive locations here in New York. Synagogues, churches, places of worship being one of those sensitive places. So that is going to have oral arguments. I'm going to stream those oral arguments once I'm going to get everything together for that. I've got some time. It doesn't happen until June 25th, but I will be streaming those arguments, those oral arguments, so we can follow along with that, because this is it's important, because Governor Kathy Hochul has denied New Yorkers their constitutional right to be able to defend themselves. And so this is a very important case, because it also has to do with what happened in D.C. the other night with these two innocent people. Okay? They could have been able, or at least Yaron could have possibly, if allowed by DC, to be able to help protect himself and Sarah. And they were going to be married. He was going to ask her to marry him, which is even more sad on this. So you kind of have to sit there and think, well, gee, man, I could have had, he could have had that chance to fight back, to defend himself and Sarah, if DC's anti-2A laws allowed him. But they don't. They restrict his and other people's constitutionally protected right. And let's remember, it's not the Constitution that gives you this right. This is an inherent right you are born with. The right to self-defense, self-determination. You are born with this right. The second you are conceived, you have that right. And DC and Chicago, Illinois, New York State, New Jersey, Maryland, Washington and Oregon now, California, Colorado, all of these states. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple more. All of these states deny you that right. A right that those two people should have had in DC. They should have had that right, but they didn't, because the DC city council or whoever runs the damn place said they couldn't. And we've been fighting this kind of crap in the courts for a long time, and it takes forever to get anything done. It's amazing now. We're still, I mean, how many times has poor Costas had to post about, his meme for, had to post his meme, I should say, for, I'm rearranging stuff here. Had to post his meme, his Groundhog Day meme, because the Supreme Court keeps relisting everything. It's crazy. It really is. So we're kind of, stuck on that. But anyway, let me get this. I'm trying to fix stuff like I said, this is a hot mess. It's a hot mess, baby. It's a hot mess. Okay. Let's do that. Whoops. How the heck? What happened? Oh, jeez. It did that. Okay, there. That's better. There. Okay, a little bit better. But anyway, this is why it's the whole anti-Semitism part, and the fact that they know, because the silence is deafening. The anti-gun groups know that no law would have been able to stop what happened to these two innocent people. Okay? That's where we're at right now with them. So if you are on social media, put them on blast. Giffords, Everytown, all of them. Put them on blast. Put them on blast. Let them know that they're hypocrites. If they I mean, come on. They're not going to they're not going to espouse the fact that some new gun law could have prevented all this. No, of course not. Of course not. They're not going to do that because they know what'll happen. They'll get put on blast because of all of the circumstances with the anti-Semitic violence that's happening in this country right now. And they should be on blast. They should be on blast. All right? They deserve it. They deserve it. Then you've got the universities, all these crazy college, quote unquote, students. You can't really call them students. They're they're terrorists. If they're proselytizing for Hamas, I consider them terrorists. All right? They don't need to be here in this country. They should have their student visas revoked and kicked out of this country. They don't need to be here. They shouldn't be here. If that's how they're supposed to come here to learn, if that's how they're going to be, if they're going to cause havoc, they're going to wreak havoc, they're going to bust shit up, kick them out, get them out. They're gone. They're gone. All of these college kids that are like this need to go. And then you've got these knuckleheads. This guy from, where is he? Probably Australia. Probably getting on blast here. But seriously, it's stories like these. It's stories like this is the reason Americans are losing sympathy for Gaza or for the Palestinian people, for that matter. The Palestinian people, I do feel sorry for them, but it was Hamas who took over their government. They fucked around. Now they're finding out. I feel bad for the Palestinian people, but it's Hamas. They got to. Hamas needs, number one, Hamas needs to surrender. That's basically it. We can get into all of that if, at a later time, but that's just how I'm going. And then Theo Vaughn jumping in and NBC News, and it's just all of it. It's just all of it. This one, yeah, Jewish man mistakes two Israeli tourists for Palestinians and opens fire on them in Miami. Well, death to Arabs on social media. That's not excusable. That's just as bad as these two kids dying. But we know where that came from. We know who started everything, too, on October 7th. We know who started it. But the gun groups, the anti-gun groups, yeah, they're oddly silent. I wonder why. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to follow this stream. We're back finally. We're going to start doing regular shows again, hopefully soon. Probably we'll start up again within the next couple weeks. Like I said, tonight was just kind of like, I had a wild hair and I gotta get on. All right. I gotta get on, but let's move on from this. Let's keep the families of these two in our prayers. And let's move on here. And let's talk about the Democrats here in New York, who have a super majority here in the Empire State, because yeah, there's some dumb people in New York State. Let's just put it that way. New York Dems want to redefine Glocks as convertible firearms. The way anti-gunners in the media, but I repeat myself, play with words is interesting, if a bit infuriating. They call it safe storage, quote unquote, instead of mandatory storage, because who can oppose doing something safe? It's gun violence instead of just violence, because they want people to focus on the gun, not the violence. They're assault weapons because that sounds scarier. Yeah, it's all wordplay. It's all wordplay to cause an emotional response, because they know if you stop and think about it, you're not going to do what they want you to do. This is they're trying to elicit an emotional response to this, so that you do what they want you to do. Give up your rights. That's what they want. Over and over again, they use language and ways to paint a picture for the public, and since most people don't know that much about firearms, it has a tendency to work. Look at ghost guns for another example. Yeah, ghost guns. They conflate the term ghost guns to mean 20 different things. So it makes it sound worse than what they're trying to let you think. What they're doing is they're trying to undersell while overperforming by using these terms that are very broadly defined. Okay? To again elicit that emotional response. That's their whole that's the only trick they have, is the emotional response. And I've talked about this. If you go back, and I've mentioned this in other streams as well, if you go back to episode 24 of this show, I literally go through a PDF they published talking about how to manipulate people's emotions because they can't trust the quote unquote, and this is in the PDF, wonky statistics, because the statistics don't match up with their narrative. They know it. They know that the gun laws don't work. They know the numbers are not on their side. So what do? The only thing they can do, appeal to your emotions. Try to get you to elicit an emotional response, because when you elicit an emotional response, when you're upset, you're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated, you do stuff that is not logical. Kind of defines the entire Democratic Party, don't you think? Because all they do is knee-jerk. Seriously, if they had one of those reflex hammers, it'd just be boom, 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 boom. That's them. That's Democrats. A recent news story about New York taking aim at Glock had an interesting phrase in the headline. New York lawmakers push for stricter gun laws targeting Glock's convertible pistols. There they go. There's another one. Convertible pistols. I'm sure they'd defend this, saying that the full auto switches convert Glocks to machine pistols, thus making them convertible. But there's also an implication here that can't be ignored. The implication is that is by design. Even if the body of the pieces does note that Glock didn't make them, doesn't sell them, and has no role in them, even calling the ability to add a switch to it a design flaw, the seed has already been planted by viewers and readers. But this isn't a design flaw. Everything about the design works exactly as intended. Switches take advantage of that design rather than exploiting something that doesn't quite work as it's supposed to. That's exactly what it is. And switches are illegal pretty much everywhere. Definitely here in New York State, they're illegal. They're definitely illegal in Illinois. Yet, you can find these videos, you go on social media, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram or wherever, you're going to find these kids, these hood kids, neighborhood kids, whatever, kids that are obviously too young to own a firearm in Illinois, showing off their Glocks with their switches. We've seen the videos, I don't know how many times on social media. I have, at least. I don't know about you, but I sure as hell have. These kids are not old enough to own these guns yet. They have them, and they have the switches, which are illegal. You can't go to an FFL and buy a switch. You can't go to an online website unless it's on the dark web. You can't go and buy that stuff in a store. You can't. Yet they have them. Makes you think, doesn't it? Drop-in full auto sears exist for multiple firearms, and they've never been legal in any way. These devices are prohibited from the jump, and yet here we stand having the conversation we're having because someone decided to build one to go on a Glock pistol. Yeah, I get that, Tom, but why are you worked up over them, over the term? You just said yourself that there's an argument to be made for using it, someone might ask. The reason is that when you talk about cars and mention a convertible, everybody knows you're talking about a car whose top is meant to go down. With convertible furniture, it's a piece of furniture like a table or something else that can be modified by design into being something else. The term suggests intention, for which literally no one can show any evidence that Glock intends for its firearm to be turned into machine pistols. Yeah, there's nothing. There's literally nothing. Glock has never said it, implied it, made any type of reference in regards to that they intended to do this. This is something with the firearm that people are taking advantage of for illegal means. And you can take a ton of stuff out there and use it for illegal means, convert it for illegal means, change it for illegal means. We've seen that as well. We know it. So what's going on there? It's just wordplay when it comes to the guns. You know, a car could be used to run a bunch of people down, trucks. We've seen it in Europe. Oh yes, the trash Euros. They're happy. They don't have guns. They have gun control. They don't have mass shootings, but yeah, stabbings, people getting run over by trucks. Oh, you know, by the same people over and over again. Let's not go into that one too. It's a crazy world. All right. Where was that? Oh, yes. That's the goal, and it starts with misrepresenting what Glocks are. It won't stop there, though. Yet, what none of these folks will say is that if gun control actually worked like they say it does, this would be a moot point. Full auto switches are part of the most heavily regulated class of firearms in this country, and yet street thugs are getting them pretty regularly. Funny that, isn't it? It is quite funny, isn't it? It is. That these kids can get these guns pretty regularly. And they're not getting them from firearm dealers. They're not, I guarantee you, none of those kids have FOID cards because they can't get one. Especially in Illinois. So how are they getting them? That seems to be the question. But New York wants to try to basically ban Glocks. One of the most commonly owned brands of handguns, probably, at least in this country, probably in the world. Good luck. Well, they'll probably get it through, but you know, we'll end up having to fight them all the way up to the Supreme Court at some point. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Because that just seems to be the way it goes. Unfortunately. But it's better than nothing. But we've made a lot of progress. Literally in the last 4 months, we made a ton of progress. Where we're at now with the DOJ and everything else. It's crazy. It's very crazy. But I love it. All right, moving on. Gun rights groups celebrate suppressor victory. This is awesome. I was watching Braden. I was watching his streams on YouTube, watching him stay up late, putting the hours in, keeping an eye on the different committees that was debating the bill that would take the suppressors off of the NFA. It was great. It was great. And seeing that it is halfway there now. We just got to get it to the Senate, get it through the Senate. The Short Act is also going to be taken up, hopefully. They're going to get the Short Act in there, so short barrel rifles and shotguns and that. Not to mention the fact with the suppressors that the DOJ just today filed in a case, Peterson, I believe is the name, that they said that suppressors are arms. The DOJ has said that suppressors are arms and are protected by the Second Amendment. In a filing. I know, right? So what does that do for us? Well, basically, the government has come out and said that since these are protected by the Second Amendment, it's going to be harder for it's going to be really hard for states to back up their bans on suppressors. So we're probably going to see some more court cases in individual states to get suppressors unbanned. We're going to see it. But let's talk about this story here with the gun rights groups. There are a lot of people who support gun rights who aren't thrilled with President Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill. They feel it's Adding too much debt gives massive tax breaks to people in high tax states while screwing over the rest of the country, or a host of other reasons. But there's one thing in there that has we, the gun rights advocates, very happy. There's a difference between supporters and advocates, for the record, are singing and dancing over, and that's the Hearing Protection Act, or at least it seems everyone's pretty happy. Second Amendment advocacy groups on Thursday cheered their win on deregulating gun suppressors, calling it a first step in broader campaign to dismantle archaic firearm laws. All gun control is racist. Let's remember that. The House passed budget bill included provisions to eliminate the registration and $200 tax on suppressors. If the provision survives in the Senate version of the big, beautiful bill and is signed by President Donald Trump, buyers will only have to pass an FBI background check to purchase one. The accessory has been tangled in the Al Capone-era National Firearms Act, which requires buyers to get a $200 stamp of approval from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Initially seen as a sinister gun add-on by crime bosses, advocates have long said silencers are key to lessening hearing damage at ranges. And we all know that the people that are allowed to have guns in Europe can get suppressors quite easily. They don't have to go through background checks and pay taxes and all that kind of stuff. They're considered essential protection for people's hearing. It's considered bad manners to not have one when you are shooting. So their suppressors are all over the place in Europe. So doesn't Democrats don't they covet stuff that Europe has, universal health care, all that kind of jazz? I don't see why they don't want this. Of course, anti-gun voices are claiming this is a massive issue and now we're all going to die. There'll be blood in the streets or whatever historical ramblings they want to use. That's their go-to, blood in the streets. It'll be the Wild West, yada, yada, yada. Yet, in all the time that they've been using those arguments, it hasn't happened. Need I remind you of Ohio when it passed constitutional carry? How in, 6 of the 8 biggest cities in Ohio, gun deaths actually went down. Crime went down. Was it because of constitutional carry? Can't really say. The numbers really don't tell us that, but we do know it didn't contribute, obviously. Getting back to the story, though, however, should this survive the Senate and be signed into law, what we're going to see is that absolutely nothing will happen that wouldn't happen without suppressors. There's so much misinformation out there about what suppressors do that the hysteria is bordering on hysteria. Wait a minute. Hysteria is bordering on hysteria as medically defined back in the day? Okay. Yo, dog, I heard you like your hysteria, so I got some hysteria for your hysteria. One thing not mentioned in the above-linked article is that many of us are less than thrilled that the Short Act wasn't included as well. True, baby steps. Baby steps. They're saying they're going to add it with the Senate bill, and then when it comes back to the House for reconciliation, we'll probably get it. So we'll see what happens. However, this is a massive step forward as it is, and the Short Act isn't actually dead. It might not have been in the House version, but there's still some hope that the Senate might include it. If that happens, the 2 acts could be signed into law following reconciliation in Congress, but just so long as both measures survive there. The fight on that isn't over. Tom goes on to say, yet I'll go on record saying that even if we don't get everything we want, we're still notching a major win. That is true. We have to keep that in mind. Even if we don't get the Short Act, it's okay. It's okay. We can always reintroduce it. We're only 4 months in to a 4-year term. Now, I get it. I get it. Most presidents can, have a very small window to get stuff done on their agenda because of the whole politics and the election cycle and everything like that, like the first 100 days. I get that. But right now, the midterms are still leaning towards Republicans. we hold on at the midterms, or even better yet, what some people are saying, we may take some more seats, then we can really get hyped up and really light up the phone lines of the Republicans in Congress in both houses and get stuff done. But we're the ones that have to call to make it happen. We can't expect them. We just can't expect them to just pick up the ball and run with it. We got to tell them to pick up the ball and run with it like Forrest Gump. These guys, a lot of these guys are just effing dumb. All right. Yep. Tom says he'll go on record saying that even if we don't get everything we want, we're still notching a major win. Yes, but we can keep notching wins and being aggressive in going after the restorations of our rights. We can take them back with every opportunity using measures like this, where they can sort of sneak under the anti-gun left's radar because they're too focused on other things. We do that, and step by step, we'll get back to the world we deserve. And remember, even David Hogg's gun control group, what I don't know what it is. Delusional gun grabbies. I don't know what they call it anymore. The fact that they had to lay people off because they're not getting the donations, they're not getting the money. People are stepping, they're moving away from anti-2A. They're moving away from it. They're realizing, they saw during the Summer of Love. They saw what was going on. They're seeing BLM. They're seeing the riots. They're seeing all this stuff. Okay? They're seeing it. They know that a firearm can help protect them. It's not going to be the end all be all. There's other things you got to do. I mean, there's still training. You got to get plenty of training. You got to get training. You got to know how to use the thing. Okay? You got to know how to use it. There's all of that. All of that is still needed. All right? But your average person, they're catching on to the Second Amendment. They're realizing that they have an option and they're taking advantage of it, and that is good. All right? The one where Tom can order an M2 Browning off of Amazon and have it delivered right to my door without special licenses. Ah, what a glorious world that would be. Yes. Yes, I remember. I remember seeing Sears catalogs when I was a little kid with guns in them. You could buy guns and they would ship them directly to you. It was crazy. It was amazing. We'll get there again. We will. We'll get there again. I truly hope we will. All right. Moving on to the next story. 24 attorney generals urge Congress to adopt constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. So right now, just like the suppressors, this probably wouldn't really help me with anything. All right. Here in New York, California, Illinois, I believe, do not recognize anyone else's concealed carry licenses for reciprocity, or even just the ability to own a firearm from any other state. Okay? There's even talk about adding a 10-day waiting period here in New York now. We'll see how that goes over. But Kathy Hochul, her favorability is she's underwater. She's in the 30s. And some of these, it's the New York Senate Democrats that are trying this stuff. The New York Assembly doesn't want anything to do with this stuff. It's the New York Senate Democrats thinking, "Oh yeah, we got this." No. I think they may find out the hard way if they try to pull this stuff. Kathy's already in trouble with the congestion pricing down in New York City. The crime rate, all of that. She's in trouble. But let's talk about these attorney generals here. A coalition of 24 Republican attorney general attorneys general have signed on to a letter to House Speaker Mike Johnson and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries calling for a floor vote and passage of H.R. 38, known as the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. The AGs, all of whom serve in states that have adopted their own constitutional carry or permitless carry laws, say they know firsthand that recognizing a broad right of concealed carry among law-abiding Americans promotes public safety and respects the fundamental liberties of our constituents and want to see that right extended across state lines. Just like I mentioned a little while ago about Ohio, when they passed constitutional carry, crime went down. Was it constitutional carry that did it? Like I said, the numbers don't really show it. It could have. There's causality, maybe, but it sure as hell didn't make crime go up like the gun grabbies and the commie mommies were saying while they were drinking their wine and popping their Xanax. So that's for sure. The letter acknowledges one of the talking points against H.R. 38 is that the bill would intrude upon states' rights, which they call a concept that would have been completely unfamiliar, if not repugnant, to some of these same pundits in any other context. Very true. Very true. It's only states' rights when it hurts their agenda, their narrative. That's when the states' right argument comes out. Other than that, Democrats are in power in the federal government. Oh, well, these red states, they got to do what we say. Again, it is projection. It's confession through projection with Democrats. They accuse Republicans of what they are doing. Look at Tish James. Look at Tish and the trouble she's in. She charged Donald Trump with the same crimes that she is now accused of committing. And the trick is they've actually got the receipts. So it's going to be tough for her to try to weasel out of this one. Okay? That's going to be the funny part. I can't wait to see fat Tish James in a XXL orange jumpsuit. So many Americans are ignorant of our history that a lot of them will be unaware that the phrase was deployed for decades in defense of Jim Crow laws. Oh, yes. It's states' rights. The southern states have a right to have the Jim Crow laws. The federal government can't do anything about it until the 16th Amendment, the 14th Amendment? I forgot. I think it was the 14th Amendment, which said states are covered by the constitutional rights as well, the federal law. The fact is that citizens have rights while governments have powers, and no state has the power to violate the fundamental enumerated rights of we the people. Regardless, the AGs argue that H.R. 38 doesn't change any state law or mandate how states must provide for lawful concealed carry within their borders. Goes on to say, states are free under H.R. 38 to establish independent requirements for any concealed carry credentials issued by the state and make publicly owned property off limits to carry. They may also, within constitutional limits, establish their own rules of behavior concerning the display, brandishing, discharge, or use of guns in public, as well as the terms of defensive force. H.R. 38 additionally recognizes the right of property owners to establish their own policies for policies for carrying of guns on private property. Okay, so what does H.R. 38 do? The crux of the legislation is, notwithstanding any provision of the law of any state or political subdivision thereof, except as provided in subsection B, subject only to the requirements of this section, a person who is not prohibited by federal law from possessing, transporting, shipping, or receiving a firearm, who is carrying a valid identification document containing a photograph of the person, and who is carrying a valid license or permit which is issued pursuant to the law of a state and which permits the person to carry a concealed firearm or is entitled to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which the person resides, may possess or carry a concealed handgun other than a machine gun or destructive device that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce in any state. That one has a statute under which residents of the state may apply for a license or permit to carry a concealed firearm, or two, does not prohibit the carrying of concealed firearms by residents of the state for lawful purposes. So I could still see some language in here that doesn't look good. I think they could rework this, honestly, because this seems like they could come up with some reasons to stop you from being able to conceal carry, and then you got to fight it in court, and you got to deal with the circuit courts and everything else. So we'll see how that goes. But honestly, I think this could be improved. H.R. 38 recognizes that more than half the states in the nation no longer require a concealed carry permit in order to lawfully bear arms. So long as the gun owner in question can legally possess their firearm, they can also carry it. Instead of forcing gun owners to obtain a carry permit solely for the purpose of reciprocity, H.R. 38 would allow those residents of permitless carry states to lawfully carry in every state of the union. So that's great for like Ohio, Florida, North Carolina now, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, all of those places that have constitutional carry. That's great for them, but for folks like me here in New York, I'm still screwed, right? I still got to jump through all the hoops. AGs acknowledge that critics of H.R. 38 complained that it would force states with strict permitting standards to accommodate carriers from jurisdictions with more lax requirements, which is true. But as they point out, some states, despite the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling to the contrary, make getting a carry license as expensive, burdensome, and bureaucratic as possible simply to discourage citizens from exercising the right. New York. That's true for both residents and non-residents alike. Some states, like Hawaii, don't even offer a way for non-residents to obtain a carry permit, while others require non-residents to undergo state-specific training courses that might not exist where they live. If I want to lawfully bear arms in Massachusetts, for example, I need to submit a non-resident firearms license application along with a certificate proving I've taken a Massachusetts basic firearm safety course in person to the Massachusetts Firearm Records Bureau. I'm not aware of that Massachusetts course being taught anywhere in the state of Virginia, so I'd have to make at least one trip to Massachusetts to take the mandated training, obtain my certificate, and submit my application in person. A journey that would cost me hundreds of dollars in needless expenses just to be able to exercise a fundamental right in what was once the cradle of liberty. That is true. Very, very true. Many northeastern states do not have any type of reciprocity. They have no system in place for out-of-state, non-residents to be able to get a carry permit in their respected state. It's ridiculous. The Second Amendment seems to be the only constitutional amendment that doesn't cover the entire United States. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. There was a time when universal recognition of a state-issued carry license would have sufficed for national reciprocity, but with 29 permitless carry states, H.R. 38 is a much better way to ensure that the right to bear arms isn't treated as a second-class right. It's still being treated as a second-class right. H.R. 38 does nothing for me here in New York, does nothing for somebody in Massachusetts, does nothing for somebody in Colorado. Nothing. Nothing for somebody in Illinois. Or any of the other states like Oregon, Washington, California, the entire West Coast. Does nothing for them in order to get their rights back that are being infringed upon by the state. By the states. All right? The odds of the bill getting 60 votes in the Senate may be slim, but House Republicans can and should do their part to advocate this measure and allow it to receive a vote on the House floor. Yes, let's see. Let's see who decides to try to stop it. We need to know who to primary, who to get rid of come next election. That would be one thing for sure. We should do that. Why not? All right. Illinois' gun control failures on full display in Chicago incidents. Oh, dear. You mean to say all of these gun laws didn't work? Well, spank my ass and call me Charlie. Who knew? Right? Who knew? By the way, make sure you take the time to hit that like button. Make sure you share this. Make sure you are following this channel. We would really appreciate it. And also, don't forget to follow us on X, freedom_NYS. If you're watching this on X right now, go ahead and follow me there. And also, we got a YouTube channel. We do post there every now and again. But honestly, if you want to get all the most up-to-date stuff, you definitely want to come on over to Rumble. So right up there at the top of the screen is the URL. Just head on over to rumble.com/freedomotter, and you will be able to see all my videos as well as my channels. I've got a gaming channel. I've also got a ham radio channel that I've just recently started up, and we've got some cool stuff planned for that. We're going to start doing a ham radio class to help get your technician class license, get you started in the hobby, and definitely going to talk some radio theory and that kind of stuff as well, and do some projects and some live streaming of Chasing DX and POTA and summits maybe. We'll see. We'll keep that going. So make sure you head on over rumble.com/freedomotter. That's going to be this channel, my 2A channel, and then there's also rumble.com/Otterman Gaming Empire, which is my gaming channel where you can see me play some games with some other Rumble content creators, as well as just kind of playing with myself. Yes, I know that sounds weird, but that's because I thought it was funny. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so the Illinois gun control failures fully on display in Chicago incidents. Cook County, of course, because Cook County is its own thing. The ban, our way to safety approach adopted by Illinois Democrats, has made it impossible for lawful residents to purchase commonly owned arms, and those guns that are allowed for sale can't be possessed without a state-issued permission slip, and only after waiting 72 hours after they've been purchased, which a right delayed is a right denied. Violent criminals, on the other hand, have little trouble getting a hold of guns and bringing them places where they're not allowed, as evidenced by two recent incidents detailed by the website CWB Chicago. The first incident involves a 23-year-old who's been charged with attempted murder and attempted armed robbery after allegedly shooting a 17-year-old on a Blue Line train. Public transportation is a gun-free zone. Same thing here in New York, yet people seem to still get killed in the Windy City. But according to prosecutors, that didn't matter to Malik Washington. Prosecutors said Washington approached a 17-year-old boy on the train, displayed a gun, and warned, "Don't move, this is a robbery." When the boy refused to cooperate, Washington fired multiple rounds as the victim ran for his life. Bullets struck the teen in the left arm and left armpit. Judge James Murphy III detained Washington on charges of attempted murder and attempted armed robbery. Murphy noted that Washington is accused of running past the fallen boy's body to make his escape. Washington was on pretrial release for allegedly possessing a pistol during a traffic stop on April 16th of 2023. He is also accused of robbing a 19-year-old victim in the 7700 block of South Racine in April of 2024. So, again, these so-called bail reform policies that New York has, as well as Illinois has, yeah, they seem to be working really good, guys. Top notch. Washington is far from the only suspect who was on pretrial release when they were charged with another crime. This year, CWB Chicago highlighted the recent arrest of a man of shooting at a group of people and injuring two of them earlier this month. Oh, really? Dalvin Mullen is the fifth person accused of shooting or trying to shoot someone in Chicago this year while on felony pretrial release. Those individuals are accused of killing or trying to kill 18 people, including 9 Chicago police officers. Okay, let's get something straight. If they're actually gunning after police officers, maybe you might want to keep them locked up, okay? I'm just saying, if they're willing to shoot at police officers who are allowed to carry their guns pretty much wherever they want, what makes you think, letting them out of jail is going to work? Seriously. Mullen, 27, and 2 accomplices drove to the 700 block of North Spalding in Humboldt Park around 6:21 p.m. on May 7th. Prosecutors said Mullen and at least one of the other men proceeded to fire shots into a crowd in an alley, striking one victim in the back and another in the hand, according to the allegations. I think it's safe to say that these guys are just bad shots, which is good. That's the good part, I guess. That's the silver lining, probably. Not much of one, but it's a silver lining nonetheless. Mullen was on pretrial release at the time of the shooting for allegedly possessing a machine gun early last year. Oh, was it a Glock with a switch? Judge Miriam Ahmad initially detained him in that case, but Judge Ursula Wakalski released him in August, according to court records. Of course. We can't have the bad kids in jail, stopping them from doing bad things. Prosecutors asked Wolowski to revoke Mullen's pretrial release on April 8th after he picked up a misdemeanor domestic violence charge. He remained on the streets, and the case was dropped a couple of weeks later. What? Jesus. What is, dear Illinois, what is going on? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker routinely point the finger at lawful gun owners and firearms industry when it comes to crime in the city. But as these cases show, there's a huge problem with the Cook County criminal justice system and the recent reforms to Illinois' criminal justice statutes. Yeah, they've adopted a lot of what New York has already passed. And guess what? Guess what? It did nothing. If anything, it made it even worse. It's made it worse here in New York, and it's making it worse in Illinois. Isn't that interesting? All right. Yeah. There's a huge problem with the Cook County criminal justice system, and the recent reforms to Illinois criminal justice statutes has become much more difficult to keep individuals behind bars until trial, even if they pose a threat to the community or are a flight risk. And the result is plain to see. Suspects arrested and charged with a crime who quickly bound out and are back on the streets to commit further offenses in no time at all. A ban on assault weapons or large capacity magazines won't fix this problem. Nope. It won't. Requiring gun owners to possess a FOID card or forcing them to wait 72 hours to pick up a gun won't address the real issue. No, again, don't see how that helps. Prohibiting them from lawfully carrying a firearm on a train or a bus won't make them safer any more than suing Glock will. And recently, United States Supreme Court justices asked the question in oral arguments. I can't remember the case, but they asked the question in oral arguments. Well, having a gun on a subway, isn't that something you would want if people are getting hurt on subways, getting shot, getting pushed on the tracks? Wouldn't you want a gun to protect yourself? I think it was Justice Kennedy that asked that. Maybe it was Alito. I don't remember. I don't remember which one it was. But they literally asked it during oral arguments at SCOTUS, at the United States Supreme Court. Crazy. And they had the Solicitor General, I believe for New Jersey it was, had no clue how to answer it. Seriously. The answer he gave was just pure fluff. I don't think it convinced anybody. These laws and lawsuits only make it harder for good folks to protect themselves against the violent predators that the revolving door of justice continually spits back onto the streets. Illinois' gun control laws aren't just a failure. They're a danger to public safety in and of themselves. They are. There's nothing again, just like I was saying at the beginning of the show, there are no gun laws that would have stopped the shooting of those two Israeli embassy staffers, those two kids. Nothing would have stopped it. No gun law would have stopped it. Nothing on the books would have stopped it. Yet they still, and then they do this. They change, they do what they call reform, justice reform, where they let violent criminals out, making it easier for them to get out, in which case they go out and they commit more crime. It baffles the mind how these Democrats think. It baffles the mind. Thankfully, they are really losing credibility. They've lost so much credibility now, it's not funny. And I seriously think they're going to lose even more. I seriously think they're going to lose a lot more credibility. All right? Hey, don't forget, you want to make sure you are liking, sharing, following. If you're on Rumble, if you're a Rumble creator and you're watching this, you have a Rumble account and you're watching this, why not share it? Why not share it on one of your channels? Yeah. You could do that. You could do a repost. Go ahead, do a repost. Tell Tell everybody on Rumble why you like this particular show, or even just the channel in general. Share that out. I would love to see those. I would love to get some feedback on the shows. I want to know what you like, what you don't like. I do these shows not just for myself, but for other people as well to watch, to enjoy. I'm hoping I get more people. I'm kind of climbing back up the hill now that I'm going to start doing these shows again. Probably in a couple weeks I'll be back. It'll be a hot mess like this one, but we'll still do it. We'll still do it. So why compromise on guns is not possible? Yeah, there's no way we're going to be able to do that. No way. And we're going to talk about why. I think there's a certain degree of middle ground possible on most issues. I think actual compromise is a good thing. If everyone gets some of what they want, but not all of it, then we can probably get through most things together, at least in theory. In reality, compromise never works like that, especially in politics. That's especially true when it comes to gun control and gun rights. Recently, came across an article talking about how there doesn't seem to be any hope of compromise in Indiana, and I have to take exception to a few things that were said. Okay, what was said? Jody Madeira, a law professor at Indiana University, explained why it is so difficult for Indiana to pass gun control laws. Indiana legislatures, although they are so reasonable in other ways, are just so extreme with gun rights that there is no compromise, Madeira said. Although Indiana talks a good game about protecting firearm rights and only making sure that rights are violated when it's the last possible resort to protect mental health or to protect the most vulnerable, they're still not willing to compromise anyone's access to firearms. Madeira gave her reasoning as to the motive behind Indiana gun laws being so one-sided. Indiana legislatures have seen what happens when parents are held liable in other states for neglectfully allowing a minor to access a firearm or neglecting to safeguard it in the presence of an adult who they know is a danger to themselves or others, Madeira said. They just don't want people to take away guns, period. Pierre Atlas, director of the Masters of Public Affairs program at the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs in Indiana University, Indianapolis, attributes the lack of compromise to an increase in extreme political stances. The bottom line is, increasingly over the years, the debate over gun rights versus gun regulations has become increasingly partisan. Atlas said the Republican Party and the National Rifle Association and the firearms manufacturers have increasingly come to be on one side of the debate. And a lot of it is because of the linkage between partisan politics, the partisan divide, and the debate over guns, he said. This isn't the way it used to be, even in Indiana, but that's definitely the way it is today. Here's the thing, and I'm willing to bet Tom Knighton, who wrote this article, Tom, right? Did Tom write it or did Cam? No, it was Tom. I'm willing to bet the next few paragraphs here, Tom says, it's simply because we've gotten burnt. The Pro 2A side has gotten burnt too many times. The other side has said, yeah, we'll compromise. We'll do this and this and this. And then they don't do it. We've gotten burnt. We seem to give up more than they are. And honestly, I'm done giving up my rights. I'm done compromising. You fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We're kind of done with that now. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of compromise anymore. And it's not just going to be because of politics. It's going to be the simple fact that they lied to us. All right. So let's see what Tom says. Here's the problem with these takes. They ignore the way compromise has always worked in the gun debate. See, for years, the idea of compromise was common. Gun rights supporters wanted to be reasonable, but anti-gunners had no such desire. They made big asks and then compromised to take only part of what they wanted. The gun rights side got screwed because all we got out of the deal was fewer gun rights, just not quite as few as the other side would prefer. That's not much of a compromise, no. And that's basically what I was talking about. That's... we would end up giving up something and they would basically not. I mean, you're telling us the only way to be reasonable is to either give up everything or give up a little less, even though we don't actually have to give up anything. And then you're shocked when we stop. Yeah. We're done. We're done now. Time and time again, anti-gun lawmakers and activists have demanded we move. They've never given up a thing except to take a little less than what they wanted. But even that isn't permanent. They come back the next year and try to take the rest. There's no rationale. There's no rational give and take. Sooner or later, they were always going to push too far, and our side was just going to say, enough. There's no compromise now because there was never any compromise then. Yeah, we kind of got shafted. So we're done. We're done now. They just pretended there was, and we made a slow march toward complete disarmament. Not anymore. Now, though, we're freaking done. I think he meant to say done. My friend Law Dog summed this up perfectly when he wrote the cake analogy. His original site is down now, but basically every time the anti-gunners come up and demanded our cake, which was our gun rights, they agreed to take half and call it compromise. First, it was the National Firearms Act, then it was the Gun Control Act in 1964, then it was the 1986 machine gun ban, then the 1996 assault weapons ban. With each piece of the cake given over in the name of compromise, our cake got smaller and smaller, but they kept coming up and demanding. Then one day we said, enough. We want our cake back and we're done playing nice about it. So yeah, there's no compromise, but the anti-gunners have only themselves to blame for it. Yeah, and they're greedy. They're greedy sons of bitches. That's all they want. Cake, candy, soda. That's all they want. They're gluttonous little bastards. That's what the gun control groups are. The commie mommies and the gun grabbies, they're just gluttonous pieces of crap. Pure and simple. Why sugarcoat it? They're, in my opinion, they are evil. They are the Sith. They deal in absolutes. Give up all your gun rights. No. We will not. We are done. We're done listening to you. We're done compromising. It's over. We're taking back what's ours. If you don't like it, tough. We'll just steamroll over you. We'll do it through the courts. We'll do it through the legislatures. We're coming to take our rights back. It's that simple. We're done. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below about any of the stories we were talking about. Let me know about the gun rights groups celebrating the suppressor victory. Not that it'll do much here for me in New York or California or any of the other blue states that are banning suppressors. How about the Democrats here in New York? They want to redefine Glocks as convertible firearms. Mostly it's New York Senate Democrats that are going to end up just decimating their chances at the election in 26. About 24 attorneys generals urging Congress to adopt the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, which honestly I'd rather see just a federal law passed saying everybody has constitutional carry. All 50 states, done. That's it. You're done. How about Illinois' gun control failures in Chicago? I mean, honestly, how many times do we have to watch that kind of stuff play out? Seriously. Chicago is just a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. And then compromising on our gun rights. We're done, right? We're all done with that. Let me know in the comments below what you think about any one of those stories. Let me know what you think about the show. I'd love to hear what you think. Love to make the show better. All right? Let me know. I would love to know more about it. In the meantime, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to follow. URL's up at the top for Rumble, rumble.com/FreedomOtter if you're watching on X or if you are watching on my YouTube channel, Freedom Otter. Make sure you head on over here to Rumble and you give us a like and you give us a follow. We'd really appreciate it. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. I will be back again. It is.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That is correct. It shall not be infringed. So make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you follow, and we will be back again. We'll have another show coming up very soon. I'm just finishing up stuff, as you can see. Tonight was a little bit of a hot mess again. But, yeah, come on. Give me the likes. Helps me out. But thanks again for watching. You have a great night. I will catch you later. See ya.